Notable Live is your fast track to one-of-a-kind experiences with your favorite athletes, like race day with Emmett Smith and Jesse Awuji, game day with Eddie George, or fishing with Ray Lewis.
And we got a party going on over here.
So, rev up your fan experience with Notable Live, your direct connection to the athletes you love and the memories and memorabilia you crave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Check out our latest events and auctions at notable.live.
I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself.
Yeah, you can be the 100 man, like scores 100 kids, just for you to watch what I'm doing under the sun again. God-given gift, them seeds to win the running man. If you want me to get it poppin', may cost 100 pence. Yeah, what I supply is always in demand. The throne is my tank, and then a high five got the upper hand. I'm too real, can't fake that. Who you know put a fear in them like this? You a vampire, still suck when you bite this. Lord forgive me for my sins, I'm feeling righteous. But they've been asking me to show me I might just. They didn't think I could do it, I had to demonstrate how the flow is so heavenly, keeping demons straight. Who they fooling? I showed them the jig is up again. When I asked them who is the best, they get this to stuttering. Tell them
I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself.
I can't lose, I won't lose. I can't lose, I won't lose. You may wanna save yourself, I think it's best you run away, I won't let you finish. Make it to the top with the same ones I came with. I shoot my shot, you better know that I'ma never miss. When they coming for me, yeah, I'm gonna tell them this.
I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself. I'ma keep. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself. You can try to save yourself, but you wanna go play yourself. That's right.
Sim racers, welcome to the eRacing Association, where you have the chance to win $5,000 in one of the best tournaments in all of sim racing. Green flag in the air.
Are you ready to reach the next level of sim racing? The eRacing Association's epic Omega Cup Series lets you win big. Racing with ERA lets you compete for huge cash prizes, get exclusive merch, exclusive sim hardware pricing, and potentially turn your virtual dreams into reality. Feel the rush as you race door to door against sim racers just like yourself, all from the comfort of your own home.
Straight away, they're into the... Oh, they're wrecking! They're wrecking!
Join now to get your membership and experience all of the excitement that the eRacing Association has to offer at www.eragaming.gg.
Celebration, he hangs on! From iRacing's virtual Texas Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to RaceSpotTV's special coverage of the eRacing Association Omega Cup Fall Bowl on the iRacing Esports Network. Well, welcome to No Limits, Texas, and from one of the biggest NASCAR tracks capacity-wise ever built, we say hello and welcome into the RaceSpotTV booth. Our producer downstairs is Hugo Louise. My name is Evan Pasoko. Happy to be joined by Justin Prince tonight in the ERA booth. And Justin, we're back at it again with another Fall Bowl, and I found it surprising when it was announced that Texas would be the host of this race, that we had certainly been here at some point over the 3+ year history of this big money series, but we have not. We've been to tracks big, small, and everything in between. We've never been here to the Texas Motor Speedway. That's not to say, though, that it is an unfamiliar challenge, especially for a lot of the big names in this race.
It's going to be a challenging race for the competitors, I think, because it's a track where track position is critical. It's important to find your way to clean air. You have two different types of banking around the racetrack, after all, especially when it comes to 1 and 2, expecting a land rush for drivers to roll their way around the bottom of the racetrack to set up that momentum side of the racetrack in 3 and 4. Texas Motor Speedway going to be very critical to have good qualifying, but better yet, have good execution throughout the race to maintain that track position. You don't want to get marred in the pack, where it's going to be tricky to move up. And it's going to be very easy for competitors to do what we just seen with 39 car on screen, push up and hit the wall.
And let's talk about what is on the line here tonight. This next-gen NASCAR Cup Series combo with this Texas Motor Speedway is something that is not unfamiliar. A lot of the names we'll talk about, a lot of the names that you may recognize, may have competed in this car track combo in the likes of the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series and others. But in this race, those big names, those stalwarts of the service, competing on an even playing field against all the other full-time ERA members in this race. And I say it's a big money series because I think outside of iRacing World Championships, Justin, you would be hard-pressed to find any series that has given away more money than this eRacing Association Omega Cup, and those numbers stay big tonight. $5,000, $4,000 to the winner. We have seen that give us some awfully, I would say, aggressive and spirited battles throughout the years, and tonight likely going to be no different. When you get prizes like that on the line, you get some of the biggest names in the business coming out. And I think we've got one of them standing by with us, Justin. I'll hand this one off to you. I think Vicente Salas going to be on radio with us.
Yes, indeed. And Vicente, a winner in the past, in fact, in these events. Welcome to the broadcast booth, Vicente. How are you feeling about this race tonight? Already seen you push up into the wall, actually, moments ago.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I just got home, so I was going for a quick Q lap. This session feels a little different than the heat race last night, so got a little bit tight off of turn 2, a little tighter than last night, but we'll be dialed for qualifying here, and we'll definitely be ready to go.
when it comes to Texas Motor Speedway tonight, what makes this racetrack, in your opinion, so difficult, especially knowing the circumstances of the aero, the track banking? What makes this place most difficult tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think the aero's definitely tough. You know, you're carrying so much corner speed through 3 and 4, and then you have to slow it all down for 1 and 2. So really 2 completely different ends of the racetrack. And then, you know, kind of judging off of the Coke race and what we experienced here a couple weeks ago, the track moved around a lot. Like, we were running all 3 grooves in turns 1 and 2. There were people running the wall in 3 and 4, running the middle. So it'll just be about finding that right line for where your tires are at in a certain point of the run. So it'll definitely be a fun race, and you'll see people all over the racetrack.
But that being said, when it comes to a race like this tonight, do you plan to work with anybody in the midst of this race, or is it going to be just quite simple, just stay in the front and be yourself, so to speak?
I don't know. I mean, I've got my dead zone teammate in here, Malik, so I think we'll probably work together whenever we can. I'll have Donovan Strauss on my box, one of my best friends. So, you know, hopefully we can work together on our strategy and, you know, bring home one of us a win.
On that note, Vicente, thank you very much for your time once again here. As somebody, I think, saying hello in the broadcast booth, one of the competitors, Kwame Scott, I believe, is with Evan.
That's right. We've got Kwame on the radio now. Kwame, there's a couple of your fellow Cook Series competitors who have got some race wins in this eRacing Association through the years. I know you want to add your name to that list. So what's the game plan tonight here at Texas?
I honestly don't really know. I'm just gonna figure it out as I go. Obviously, I mean, biggest thing is to finish a race, right? I just want to be there at the end and try to get caught up in any early chaos. I know there's one fast repair to that we all get, but the plan is not to use that. I'm gonna, you know, try to qualify up front, and yeah, just see if we can stay up front and hopefully get to the lead.
Pretty big stakes on the line tonight, a $5,000 purse. That'll get paid out to the guys in the top 5. But unlike in the Coke Series, maybe a decent portion of this field is guys that you haven't raced with ever or frequently. So does that change how you have to approach this, knowing that everybody's going to be just about as aggressive as you could imagine?
A little bit. Knowing that, I mean, I feel like the guys I'm going to be around or will be a little bit more familiar to me, but definitely something to look out for. You know, I might just have to give a little bit extra space to, you know, someone who I'm not used to racing with or whatnot. But like I said, we're just gonna, either way, we're just gonna try to keep it clean and just be here at the end.
I haven't had a chance to see the full running order in terms of everyone that's in this, but you got any Nexus teammates in this, or are you kind of flying solo?
No, I think I'm solo for this one. Other than my spotter, that's the only teammate I have right now. So we are solo.
Well, no pressure. You got to carry the flag for those guys. We appreciate the time, Kwame. Good luck in this one, and hopefully for your sake, we'll be chatting again in a little bit.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Kwame Scott, big thanks to him and to Vicente Salas for giving us an opportunity to chat pre-race in this one. Drivers just wrapping up the end of a long practice session, and then we're going to move into really the first big moment of the night, Justin, which is going to be knockout qualifying. As many as 60 drivers eligible to start this one. There was about 7-8 different heat races. You heard Vicente allude to that they had to compete in order to be able to qualify for this race in the first place. And that only gives you the right to literally qualify for this race. You're not in the main show until you see your name in the top 40 in single car qualifying. That's coming up in about 90 seconds.
And based on the entry list, at least 3 people will be going home, depending on how things go in qualifying. 43 drivers took part of the drivers' meeting for tonight. We'll see if there's any late entrants in that regard, but it puts a lot of pressure, especially if you're not good at qualifying and not good at putting down a hot lap to get the job done. I remember competing in various leagues where you get the shakes because of how nerve-wracking it can be if you aren't confident on the speed. And it can be down to just a couple hundredths of a second, a couple tenths of a second between this whole field. And the difference between going home and making the field could be one slip of the wheel or even just a couple feet of racing line here tonight. It's going to be critical to be able to make sure you nail your starting line and nail the racetrack as a whole to maximize qualifying.
A short race like this, 100 laps in distance, is not quite a sprint, but it's kind of what we typically see for intermediate races these days on the service. Oftentimes, if you don't have that threat of being eliminated in qualifying, drivers will just put down a good lap, right, in their first time around and then really use that second lap to push it. I don't know if you can really take it easy on either of the 2 Q laps you're going to get, because, again, that threat of if all 43 cars get a clean lap in, 3 drivers who put down a time are not even going to make it to the show here tonight. That threat is going to loom large. Do we see any surprises in the qualifying session? Do some of the big names end up on the outside looking in? We're about to find out, because the practice session is winding to a close, and it is time for knockout qualifying next from Texas. Going to be almost full throttle all the way around this racetrack. High speed, high risk. The big caveat I mentioned, a clean lap, Justin. Any incident point, wall contact, you name it, would disqualify somebody's lap time. So as Alex Jones at a 45, first car to roll off, these drivers have to be fast. They have to keep it clean. No wall contact, no tires in that turf on the front stretch either.
Not expecting too many major things outside of what we already seen Vicente kind of emphasize. Is it's very easy off of turn 2 to be pushing very hard, because it's less banking in 1 and 2, meaning you have a lot more time where you have to try and let the car rotate to plant. If you go too early on the throttle, it's very early. It's very easy, I should rather say, to just fly up and lose that front grip and slide up the racetrack. Right now, Jones seems pretty well planted to be able to set things up to start this lap, going just straight at it to try and set this lap and see where he banks himself before the second time around.
Jones put down a 29.588 as his best lap time in practice. That was good enough for 6th, the best overall. Let's see what he does with his first time lap. He's going to be the first one across the stripe, 29.937. Room to improve. But as Kirsanov comes in second on the board, Jones top for the moment. Now, Sean Conklin top of the board. You'll watch that leaderboard dance all over. Big bobble there for Jones off of 2. May not be able to improve on this lap, but that leaderboard is all over the place. As there's a look at Cody Harris, also was one of the fastest cars in practice.
Yeah, that time wall contact, it looked like for Sheemer Fawn, one with 45. Cody Harris, not bad in these events. We've seen him do very well in the past, actually, in the major events. A 30 flat to a 29.7. Not bad at all, as some drivers go better on the second time around. Malik Ray, Jacob Snyder, some of those jumping up by a good 3-4 tenths, trying to build up the tire pressures and optimize the tire temperatures for the second time around.
Cole Larson trying to qualify in, currently 31, as we wait for him to get his first scored lap completed. Malik Ray was top of the board till Schneider took over. Malik is the defending race winner from earlier this year in the Summer Bowl at Iowa. Again, a very different racetrack on the short track, but Malik trying to go 2 for 2. We've only ever seen one driver win 2 Omega Cup races back-to-back, and that was way back in the 2021 season when Vicente Salas won the Summer Bowl and the Fall Bowl back-to-back. Malik at a good place to be able to do that tonight. Most drivers with a lap time in. There's Vicente Salas. Talked to him earlier. He is on fast lap number 1. He was a top 15 car in the practice session, but never count that man out. If he can get a clean lap in, he may be running out of time as qualifying starts to dwindle and the checkered flag is out. Did Vicente Salas not get a lap time in time, and would that be a DNQ for one of the favorites?
He did not get a qualifying time in. He is the only driver in the field not to set a time. Ran out of time. He needed to leave a good 30 seconds early, at least put a time up. Salas is one of the drivers, if I'm looking at this right, that may go home here.
That is big. We saw the car blink away, thought initially, okay, maybe a connection issue, right? That's something that could affect a clean lap time. But then we saw the checkered flag displayed, and I think that's correct. These drivers had 2 minutes to complete, or 3 minutes, I should say, to complete 2 laps. Again, that is ample time to do so. Almost every driver was able to complete both of their qualifying laps. But it seems like it. Vicente now asking as well. I don't think Vicente made it under the clock. And looking at these numbers, 30 or 42 cars put down a time in qualifying. One car didn't. That was Salas. So by my count, Ray Rittenauer II, one of the longest standing super speedway experts on the sim, would likely be the final qualifier in position number 40. And that would put J.D. Larson, who put a 31.0 in, Larry McDonald, who put a 31.3 in, and then Salas, who put no time in. Those are likely the three drivers who are not going to qualify for this main event. And I started off the Q session, Justin, by saying, do we see any big surprises? I think Salas not even getting a lap time in time certainly meets that standard. I did not have that on my bingo card to start this race.
Yeah, that's quite simply just trying to time up the lap towards the end of the session to try and optimize the track temperature. And there's a problem with that. You just seen the problem with that. If you go too late, you leave yourself too little time to be able to try and qualify your way into the show. It's a big one for Vicente, and he mentioned he was coming in late. He brought himself in late, needed to get to the racetrack in the final stages, and now he's going to be on the outside, I believe, looking in here. Unless something changes, he is definitely amongst those that is going to be outside the picture because of that. J.D. Larson trying to bank on a second lap, also left it too late. Larry McDonald didn't put in a good first lap, put himself at the bottom of the bank or lap times, and all he had to do was set a 30-second lap time essentially to make the show. These three did not do that.
So that is the first surprise of the night, and you saw it there confirmed that it's Larson, McDonald, and Salas who do not advance through. And that is maybe the biggest of indicators as to maybe some people who will say, knockout qualifying is just a formality. The big names will get in. Vicente Salas has had a lot of success here on the iRacing service. I was just mentioning he's the only person to ever win back-to-back Omega Cup races back in 21 when he did it in the summer and the fall bowl back-to-back. And he will not have an opportunity to go for another $4,000 top prize here tonight because he unfortunately will not qualify for the show. Now, those 40 drivers who have qualified, Justin, mission accomplished, right? Some drivers may not be happy with their qualifying position. They're going to have plenty of opportunities over the course of this race to make up for that. Again, it's not a long race, but it's not a short one either. But mission accomplished. Take a deep breath. You're in the show, and now you get a couple of minutes before we actually head to the grid for them to kind of assess what happened. If you've got teammates, maybe start to strategize a little bit. You take a look at some of those other times. Again, those are the drivers who just made the cut in, and some big names back there. I mentioned Rittenauer was the bubble driver. Garrett Maines would have expected maybe a better Q effort out of the driver of the 2 car. He's going to be starting way back in the 30s as well.
Yeah, a little bit surprising. Actually said his first lap is the better of the lap. Didn't get the speed. Was looking to the second. Brian LaPrazenaire surprised back there in 38th position in the first place. Yeah, Mike Sturgill, who's picked up some wins this year in year-round competition, in 35th. A lot of these drivers just didn't get, it seemed, comfortable with the racetrack enough to where you might get too tight again in turn 2. You might end up not be able to get enough speed built up for 3 and 4, where it's basically full throttle. And that's where we've seen things, I think, really shuffle in the qualifying session. And this is why having good comfortability of the racetrack as a whole is so critical. If you don't get the prep time, if you don't get yourself to where that you need to get that line down just right, you might be going home. In this case, the 3 who went home, year left and 2 later, had issues on their second laps, or didn't put in time in the case of Vicente. But in a lot of these cases, you're talking about those drivers at the bottom of the field just 4/10 off, 5/10 off just about from the pole time, and that's the difference between first and starting in the 30s.
It's also worth noting if they end up as the 41st and 43rd slowest cars of this group, it's important to note, remember, they all had to compete in heat races earlier this week to get to this point. I know it's not much of a consolation, but those are the 41st to 43rd fastest, not slowest, right? They already had to beat out several other drivers, in which only a handful of cars from each of the heat races even made it to this part here tonight, right? So they've already had a good night, had a good week, I should say, here at Texas to get to this point. Yes, it's disappointing to not get into the big money races, but the vast majority of cars who wanted to qualify for this race didn't even make it to here. Now, again, I don't think a Salas or some of these other names are much for moral victories, right? They expect to compete in these races to win. That's why an event like this brings out the biggest names from across the service. But I do think it is a fair point of noting they had to qualify to get to this point even, so they've had a strong week thus far. Now, for those 40 drivers who are going to make the show here tonight, one last opportunity to shake these cars loose. A 5-minute warm-up session. Justin, I don't think they're really learning much in this, right? They've already done the heats, they've done the qualifying, they've had an hour of practice. Maybe for some of the least experienced drivers, maybe somebody who's new to competing on a platform this large in a race with this much on the line, maybe this is more of an opportunity to shake those final jitters out, but I don't think these drivers are learning anything else in these final 5 minutes. They know what they've got, they know based on their qualifying effort what they're going to have to do if they want to win this race, and this is just kind of that last little shoot around before tip-off, if you will.
Yeah, it's just about making sure all your equipment's good to go, first of all. That's a critical thing to check. Make sure the steering wheel's done up right. Make sure you don't have any technical issues before you hit the starting grid. But also, it's almost like being in a bullpen. Just warming up that arm. Just making sure it's ready to go for when you have to go and perform. Alex Thurber, amongst those you're keeping an eye on right now, he seems to be amongst those just trying to make sure he's got any last notes together on top of it. So if you're towards the back, any last bit of preparation can be helpful, even if it's just 5 minutes, just to make sure you've got this track dialed in and you're ready to go racing, and you don't end up being like the car that just apparently crashed on the front straight away during the start.
You don't want your bumper coming off. I guess it's a good point to bring up, and I believe it was we were talking with Kwame, he mentioned it, right? These drivers do get one quick fix. That's somewhat rare when it comes to these big money races. What essentially that means is if these cars get damaged, they get one reset, they get one mulligan. They can forego sitting in the box, getting the car fixed painstakingly slow, and they can simply hit the switch, get a brand new car. Now, drivers will have to use that strategically, Justin. We'll see if some cars get a little bit of minor damage early in the race. They don't want to burn that quick fix, because if they get damaged later, they may have wanted to save it. So it is not a get out of jail free pass. There is still strategy to it, but it means that if we have accidents over the course of this race, it is not going to be an instant write-off. Those names will still have an opportunity to come back.
You don't want to rely on it, as Kwame also said, though, because if you rely on that fast repair, you're going to, first of all, lose the track position. But better yet, it makes you on edge on how you drive the rest of the way without it. As there's Cody Nichols, who's in the midst of some of the preparation, talking things over with the Nightmare Esports teammates. It's one of those situations where if you end up having to use it, you just drive different to try and keep your car safe and avoid causing any contact or getting any damage. And as a result, you end up losing that edge potentially to race towards the front. You don't want to end up being in any accidents tonight. You don't want to end up relying upon it.
Cody Nagels knows what it's like to be an ERA Omega Cup Victory Lane race winner from the Daytona International Speedway earlier this year in the Spring Bowl back on February the 21st. He's looking to join a very exclusive club of multi-time ERA race winners. And again, talking about somebody who's maybe been in this situation, not having some of those jitters. He's not worried about stretching in the bullpen or getting a couple of shots off before tip. He's sitting in the pit box. He's ready to go, getting in the zone as he gets set to do battle for 100 laps tonight with $5,000 on the line. Some other drivers in this race who have won these races before. We saw Garrett Maines going to have some work to do as he starts down in the 30s, but Garrett Maines is a two-time race winner, Spring Bowl of 22 and the Fall Bowl of 22 at Daytona and at Irwindale, not an intermediate racetrack win. In fact, you've got to go back a decent bit back to last summer for the last time we raced this Omega Cup at an intermediate racetrack like this. Salas won at Charlotte back in May of 23. Well, we're just about set to get tonight's race underway, so let's go down trackside for pre-race opening ceremonies at Emenderlinawuji for the singing of tonight's national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And with the cars on the grid now for the most famous words in motorsports to get us officially kicked off, it's Pro Football Hall of Famer Willie Roaf.
Hi, this is Willie Roaf, NFL Hall of Famer. It's go time. Drivers, start your engine.
Well, Nasty's gotten us ready to go. Let's go trackside and take a look at your ERA starting grid for this 2024 Fall Bowl. And it is Jacob Schneider on pole position with that 29.615 best of them all. He'll bring us to the green flag alongside a previous ERA winner. It is the number 2 starter of Malik Ray. Back on row number 2, third starting spot, the number 48 machine of Eugene Mozganov, and the outside, P4 starter, the 34 of Andre Castro. That was the best car in practice. Back on row number 3, P5 starter tonight, the number 54 of Sean Conklin. To his outside, P6 starter, that's the 23 car of Zach Novak.
Alex Thurber starts back in the 7th spot tonight in the 29.684 bracket. Hayden Swank will power his way for the 8th position. Colby Scott, another one of the NASCAR competitors. Retard Esports Nexus starts alongside a fellow co-driver, Matt Busa. Then it's Yaka Kirizenov, who will start off in 11th spot, and Cody Harris is starting 12th.
Lucky number 13 tonight goes to number 24, Daniel Eberhardt, and a 14th place starter is Kirill Konanovich. It is Raul Alves and Jacob Smetana on row number 8. Continuing on through for the next couple of drivers, midway point, Cole Larson qualifying in, Matt Johnson, Cody Nagels, Michael Strager, a couple of drivers, Justin, who we've seen some success in these races. We followed Alex Jones through in qualifying. He's in P28.
Yeah, that was from his first lap. Christopher Heights still catching up to the field in 30th. You have Garrett Maines back in 34th. Keep it on him to be one of the big movers. Same for Briar LaPrade, 38th starting spot, and Raymond Rittenauer starting shotgun.
That's the field of 40 cars who have made it to this main event, and we're happy that you're with us for this special presentation of iRacing on RaceSpotTV. Pace car down and in, Schneider in control. Let's go racing at Texas. Inside of P2, the 7 of Malik Ray pulls alongside, nose to nose for the race lead at the end of lap number 1. Can the 7 use the banking topside drag race to the start-finish line? Lap 1, book it for Malik Ray on the outside.
Just got the very edge there in that, but I still think at least to start things off, the bottom going to be the more preferred line as the race goes on. Multiple opportunities to run different lines because you're forced to search for clean air. Others just trying to search their way to the bottom in 3 and 4, whereas the shorter distance like Andre Castro, it's going to be important to make sure you keep things calm, cool, and precise on these movements today if you're in the heart of this field in the side-by-side racing.
It was a nice move by the 48 machine of Eugene Vizganov to get P2, but Malik Ray crossed him back over just as quickly in the 7 cars. So Schneider enjoying the fighting that's going on behind him because it's allowing the race leader to pull away. He's got about 6 car lengths now in the center of 3 and 4. That outside lane using the more heavily banked end of the racetrack in 3 and 4 that time to clear, and Vizganov does get sole possession of that number 2 spot. For the moment, your top 3 single file as it's that 7 of Malik Ray in 3rd. Andre Castro able to shake off a challenge from Sean Conklin. So it's Castro 4, Conklin in P5 down the back straightaway.
And this is where I think it starts to settle in a little bit. It's going to be hard to pass, and that's why drivers like Scott are saying, if I can get to the outside, pinch drivers down, such as Zach Novak, get the run off the corner, might be able to set things up here. It's going to be also important. Right here, you see this opportunity at the bottom. A lot of people are going to see that and say, can I wrap that inside? Or can they drive to the outside, try and pinch somebody off, lose that momentum for that inside line, and in turn make the pass? Kwame's just trying to follow the lines that Zach Novak's trying to open up in front.
Kwame Scott busy this time of year, competed in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series this year, now down in the Contender Series, trying to re-qualify for that series for 2025. That series currently utilizing the B cars, the NASCAR Xfinity Series cars. So is it out of season for him to be in these Cup cars? It doesn't look like he's missed a beat, though. He's able to get around that number 54 Conklin, top side of the racetrack, and now next to man up is that 34 on the bottom. So Kwame Scott and company making moves up on the outside of the racetrack. Alex Thurber also top side as somebody grazed the fence that time up at turn number 4, showered some sparks, maybe lost a bit of the wrap, but no harm, no damage, as these top 10 cars really unable to break away from each other. That's, I'd say, the top 11 cars right there with a bit of a blitz. Midfield surprisingly calmed down early in this one. Normally we see that mid-pack be a hornet's nest.
Yeah, these types of races do settle out fairly quickly when it comes to the big side. I've noticed where you might get some single file, but a lot of people have to think big picture, make sure they manage the tires, have to make sure they don't burn up that rubber, especially by the time you get to the pit window around the halfway point of this race. Still keep an eye on some of these other drivers, though, and how they're going to play things out, though. Drivers like Thurber in the backdrop, scraping the paint off. Others just trying to build some separation. I'm not surprised, I will say, Evan, on your top 2. Some of these drivers for the Ryko camp, very quick in officials. They aim to do well, and this is a car they've aimed to do well in particular as a group and as a team.
And typically when they get a contingent on the racetrack, it's not unfamiliar to see them running 1, 2, 3, or however many of them there are in succession in some of the top running spots. Single file towards the front. This battle just inside of the top 10. That 77 to Thurber, I mentioned, has been trying to make moves top side. Right now kind of stuck, though, on the outside of the racetrack. It's Hayden Swank, Daniel Eberhardt, and Raul Alves down on the bottom. Those are those 3 cars packed in under that 77 car, and there's really nowhere for the Micro Center Ford Mustang topside to go right now. He's kind of stuck up there for the moment, hoping that a line opens up, but it seems like at the moment he doesn't have the pace needed to clear this trio, and he's got to be worried, Justin, because if that 62 car joining the party here and Matt Bussa gets on the bottom, if they all box that 77 out, it's going to be a long ticket to the back of the field here. Does he get a spot in line? He does for a moment go behind that 51, but Busa is quick to assume that spot on the inside. Big slide that time. That was Alvis who got out of control. It's a good save, and it's the opening that Thurber needs to get in line.
Just caught the apron, Alvis did, and that's what happens when you just get that very raised edge to the left side tire wall against the white line. You get to where the car dances around. Alvis, very lucky to hold on to that race car without losing spots here. This 20 machine, though, another one of those, still emphasizing that second line that was talked about, in particular by Vicente a bit. Just trying to get the run, but no place to go when you get boxed in, and all you can do is take the run to the bumper. You just got to take the run momentum-wise in fourth gear, get alongside, get the run down the straightaway before you shift up to fifth.
Man, he was hanging that thing out on the outside and didn't even break a sweat or blink. Kirill Kadanovic locked in on the outside as that 20 car continuing to try to make moves. He's up 3 positions from where he started, looking for more, and should be able to clear that 51. Yes, he does, as they come off of the exit of turn number 2. Brief moment in time, single file through the top 10, but I don't think anybody's got more than a handful of car lengths clear from the next challenger. 13 laps complete of 100 in this ERA Omega Cup Fall Bowl in the Texas heat. Still Schneider up front. He's led every single lap but the opening lap. That was snatched by Malik Ray. Malik now down to third as Mazganov passing him in that battle for P2. Now another challenger down to the inside, headed off to turn number 3.
Matt Busa amongst those who lost ground to start off the race, started on the top, got swarmed by some of the competitors. Alvis already saying, go ahead, take it on the radio. And for Busa, I'm expecting long run to be one of the emphasized points for that 62 car to be able to fly his way up to the field. Others like Cody Harris, you can see him just trying to contemplate with how this race has gone so far, all the way back to around the 16th spot, going the wrong way so far in the 28.
He's hoping to turn things around, but it has not gone in his favor with those -4. Him and Kursadov have both lost those same amount of positions and find themselves in the mid-teens. It's not scaring the Cody Harris machine away from trying to fight. He goes right back to the outside of the 13 to Kursadov and, you know, isn't kind of cowering in line and playing safe. He's still going on the offensive. Harris knows that if this race goes green and he loses some big gaps up front, he's going to find himself struggling for track position on the backside. Meanwhile, up front, you saw it on the left-hand side of your screen. Eugene Mazganov, JP, to the race lead over Jacob Schneider. Look at these top 4. Throw a blanket over them. And the newest driver into the conversation, here comes Zach Novak. He's up to P3, and he wants more. And up for the race lead now, Schneider back to the inside.
Wants it back. He grazed the wall. Schneider did on lap 15 coming out of turn 4. That's what opened up the door for his Renkel teammate to make the move. But Novak just seeing these opportunities open up on a silver platter here. Just take the opportunity outside and get the pitch down. And this is exactly what he's talking about. Get the run, build the momentum, cross them up, take the inside, the preferred group for 3 and 4.
Novak going to throw it in on the inside of turn number 3. Mazganov maybe the preferred lane. He got the wide entry. He's going to try to carry the speed through the corner. Just a touch of hesitation off of 4 means that Novak keeps the nose to the inside. Lap still in favor of the 48 car on the outside that time. Schneider watches on from 3rd as they're door-to-door for the lead. They're going to slow each other down. Thought maybe Schneider would look to go 3 wide, but the 02 car bobbled. Center of 1 and 2. He'll have to gather things in his own right now. He'll choose the bottom. So everybody on the white line except for Mazganov on the top side. Can that Ryko car keep it up top? Schneider gets a bit of fence that time off of 4. It'll be a battle for 3rd behind these leaders as Ray to the inside of Schneider, who has struggled just a touch. But this is fantastic stuff. 20 laps into this race, 2 wide, 2 rows deep for the race lead.
Mazganov got a little bit of the wall as well there. That's going to slow him down a touch. And what's been working for the 48 to keep this outside going a little bit later on his throttle points, just right in the middle of the seam actually in some of these grooves to just get enough speed to keep that little bit of an edge for when he goes down the straightaway right now. Novak, I think, is still quicker, but he is getting too tight by this. Ray taking advantage.
Novak washed up the hill. Mazganov clear topside. So is the 7 Malik Ray on the inside. Costly mistake for one of the very best to ever do it in Novak. Now he's still stuck 3 wide. He's got the Schneider machine to his outside, and underneath him in this battle, more drivers joining the fun. It's that 36 on the inside as well. 3 wide for 3rd position with Schneider on the outside, Kwame Scott on the bottom, and Zach Novak in the middle of the sandwich. Schneider clear topside. He wins out 3rd. Malik Ray looked low for the race lead, didn't pull the trigger. He stays in line. Right now, your top 7 cars separated by only half a second. There's the onboard look with Kwame Scott as he ends up in P6.
Yeah, and at this point, Novak amongst those really destroying his tires, but here comes Ray to the outside. He's been amongst those not burning up his stuff like Mazgana's been burning up his right rear tire. And Ray taking advantage to get to the lead as Mazganov just trying to hold on to it at this point, as well as drivers like Novak who are getting extra tight from the side-by-side battling.
All kinds of drivers struggling. That 48 car was smoking the right rear tire that time off of turn 4, but it's going to be a long fall from the top spot as now Mazganov simply trying to maintain 4th in a battle with Sean Conklin. These cars are slipping and sliding 4 wide that time off of turn 2 as Kwame Scott pulls the parachute and dives out of it to allow the 48 car to get back in. Now they're down to what can only be assumed as a safe 3 wide position. They are continuing to go at it. Now we're almost already 1/4 distance through this race. And we started the night as Malik Ray maybe settles into the race lead for a moment. Justin still watching this 3 wide. Started the night talking about quick fixes, talking about the unknown, drivers racing against each other who they don't normally race with. And historically, these Omega Cup races have a lot of fireworks, big mistakes, big wrecks. That's just the part of open racing like this with money on the line. But right now, we're looking at an absolute clinic with these drivers in the top 10.
I'm not surprised to see this absolute clinic of racing so far from your top 10 competitors, because these are some of the best on the platform, including those not in Coke, and amongst those that had some of the best runs in RTP. Sean Conklin comes to mind. Mazganov comes to mind from round 2 action there. Jacob Snyder amongst those who's shown speed in this car. He's one of the top people from that team we mentioned already. But the Raikkonen side, this is a grouping of drivers that is well experienced when it comes to this style of racing, Evan, and better yet, when it comes to racing this high level of competitiveness. You have Daniel Eberhard even in that mix as well, that's just trying to run the high side. These drivers in this grouping, they may not race each other a lot together, but they have to be able to race side by side like this if they want to be uber competitive and be amongst some of the best of the best. And when it comes to this racing tonight, they've all recognized it's hard to stay 3 wide, let alone 4 wide at Texas. You have to give space, and that's one of the main things we've seen, drivers giving space in this aggressive battling amongst these competitors up front.
And you expect the drivers who compete full-time against each other to be able to do that. The Rays, the Novaks, the Boosas, and those other drivers. But when you get in those other top talented drivers, the Schneiders, the Conklins, the other names that we've seen in these ERA races through the years, it almost feels like every time we do this, if it's a summer bowl, a fall bowl, a winter bowl, or a spring bowl, you name it, it feels like it's ERA summer camp. All these big names from all around the service come together, and they can just flip the switch and go at it right on each other's door, know the space that they need to give, know how aggressive they can be with one another, and they just flip that switch like they were never apart. That was Matt Busa in the green number 62 car trying to make a move on the inside of Conklin. He'll make a bit of a late entry into turn number 3. Going to be tricky, I think, for him to make that car stick on corner exit. It proves to be true. Conklin shakes it off for the moment in P5. finally seeing the leaders get a bit of space. Malik Ray and Zach Novak 1-2 had pulled about a half a second over Jacob Schneider, third on the back. It is the biggest gap the leaders have gotten all night. Not to say that half a second's a big gap, but relatively speaking, Justin, you mentioned off of the top that maybe long run speed was going to be critical. Have some of these cars cooked these tires and driven a little bit too aggressively early and are now maybe reaping what they sowed.
Yeah, a few drivers that have really started to feel that pinch has gone off. We've seen him fighting hard to hold on in front before. He's now gone completely backwards since burning up the right rear tire on that slide. And once you slide the tires, you lose that grip, obviously. Up front, interestingly enough, I think, just seeing some of the drivers that are starting to make the moves. You have Novak, who was pushing tight. He was able to calm that right front tire down. He's just made the move for the race lead after running the wall in 3 and 4 last time by. And now he looks to get some clean air.
First lap led of the night for Zach Novak, who started this race in the number 6 spot. Now he has control of this one. He has been good all night long. Zach Novak, somebody else who is on a who's who list of accomplishments on the iRacing service, but has yet to go to ERA victory lane. Is tonight the night for that number 5 car. We'll continue to watch. He's up front, the 23, I should say, sorry, the 7 Malik Ray P2. He's led the second most laps out of anybody. We've already seen 4 different drivers lead laps in this race, as we're now 1/3 of the way through. Again, 100 laps, I mentioned, Justin. We've seen this, I'd say about 2-3 years ago, that this kind of became the standard race length on the service. Normally, big money races like this, a lot of the Pro Championship stuff as well, kind of ran 50% length of what you'd see in the NASCAR Cup Series when we're talking about events with this car specifically. And in the last couple years, they've gone a little bit shorter. And this 100-lap, 150-mile format puts you right in the sweet spot where it's not a sprint because you do need to pit to get there. So if this race goes green, we're going to start talking about the strategy elements of that. But it is also not that long to the point where, drivers who qualify poorly are going to have limited opportunities to get up here and join these guys. There's been some cars that have picked up spots. Kwame Scott's up 5, Matt Busa's up 5, but I'm not seeing cars who started in the 20s up here battling for the race lead. That goes to show you how important that Q effort is look at this battle. Do we go 3 wide for P4? Scott thought about it. He'll commit to it to the inside.
You open up the door, may as well go through it. Why not? But I think moves like that aren't going to work for the bottom right now, at least for what it seems like. A lot of these drivers have figured out, it was touched upon needing to figure it out after all, to get that second line, to get that third line going defensively, and being able to defend at this racetrack and better yet, be the aggressor. To be able to make passes on that outside line seems to be the way for it to go now, rather than say the run the bottom in single file car action. That seems to be the preferential point. So for a lot of these drivers, it's just about trying to switch things up, change things up. As Andre Castro, who's been pretty busy with a lot of different series like the Toyota GRA 6 Esports Championship that finished up a couple weeks ago. He's been competitive all night. In fact, he led the way in final practice after all. He's been keeping himself top 10 and has been keeping himself uber competitive in his car.
He has, and he's really slinging that thing out. He was, to your point, best in practice, and he's rocking those ERA colors tonight inside of the top 10. Meanwhile, Kwame Scott now looking to the inside, still trying to do what he can to get underneath Sean Conklin, not able to do it that time. These cars are about a second off of the race leader now, so you're starting to get to the point where if you start slipping to a second and a half back from Novak, you're getting a little bit out of touch to where simply conserving tires better may put you a little bit too far on the outs. Again, we assume if this race goes green, pit stop's likely not that far away and would come right towards the middle of this race towards lap 50. Some drivers may not be comfortable, though, Justin, pitting early or right on that halfway number, because for a lot of these cars, pitting going to cost them a lap, and with the uncertainty of caution flags, I wouldn't want to be a car sitting a lap down, especially the way these guys are leaning on each other. That's Castro on the bottom and Schneider on the outside. That's for P6 and 7. And look at this move. Daniel Eberhardt outside to in. Why not go 3 wide again? And it's really tight. They touched that time in the center of the corner.
They got the spotter call, it looked like, there for Castro with the poke from Eberhardt. And in the end, Schneider got the worst out of it. Shuffle back to A spot. Eberhardt, I think he's just kind of going to the mindset of needing to go. They've lost more than a second from this battle, and they are starting to really lose the chance to be able to stay within the main lead pack that's really shrunk down to about 4 or 5 cars with how aggressive they've been battling. There's those 4 or 5 cars, and at this point, you're going to need to put some very fast lap times down if you want to maintain the grip to this pack.
And that time by the stripe, 1st through 4th, occupied by drivers who competed in the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series in 2024. So those drivers rising to the top. Biggest mover of all of them is Matt Busa. He is yet to lead a lap tonight, and he's got a little bit of legwork to do so. He's still 9/10 off of the leader, but Busa recently got around these two, and Malik Gray and Kwame Scott to P2. It is the highest we have seen Matt Busa do tonight, and now that he is unobstructed to try to chase down that race leader in Novak, curious if we're going to see Busa be able to get away from these other 3. Look at Conklin. He's been pretty quiet for being a top 10 car. He's got some work to do, and he's in a 3-car tandem draft essentially down the backstretch here. He's pushing Kwame Scott, who you're on board with, and Kwame just lined up and pushed to Malik Gray. He's just trying to desperately get to the outside of the 7 car. Big moment there. Now he'll go underneath.
Took the air right off the spoiler with how that corner exit went for Kwame. At that point, Ray's just having to pull back. Nothing else he can do. He's on the 3rd groove. You can't do anything from that high up in 1 and 2. So, well done from Kwame, but now that's really allowed things to separate from the race leader. Zach is putting on some flyers to be able to try and run away from this pack.
Dealing with a little bit of lap traffic. First time we've seen that tonight. He's going to put Chris Papa a lap down. The 13 yields to the outside. It should not impact the lap time much at all for Zach Novak. And Zach's 31.164 last time around, I think, was the best lap of anybody on the racetrack, maybe with the exception of Andre Castro, who put down a pretty good lap time in P6. But again, deficits going to be the biggest thing that hurts Castro. All the fighting that 34 has been in has put him behind the 8 ball and at a 2.5-second disadvantage to these race leaders. Donnie Fair also, lap car staying low. That one not a pass for position as Malik Ray went high, and now as the double O goes high, it'll be the 34 going low. So the serpentine through this lap traffic, that's going to become more and more of a frequent challenge the longer into this green flag run that we get.
Yeah, especially since you have a whole string of cars that are already 3/4 of the race back. I'm very curious if anybody tries to change things up on strategy. Believe we have one on the ticker actually coming in, Cody Harris, that's rolled the dice on an undercut strategy. As we're already towards that halfway mark as well, some of these other drivers going to have to start thinking about that pit entry as a whole to make sure they execute. It's seen a lot of the Coke level that a lot of the practice is about that pit entry. You back it up too much, you lose 3 to 5 seconds. You don't get a good pit exit on the access road, you can lose 3 to 5 seconds on the racetrack. Harris opening up the window for the lead lappers.
And if you push it too hard and get a speeding penalty, you take yourself out of the race just like that. And you've all got to do that while slowing down on an active racetrack. So you don't want to tip your hat on your strategy to everybody else, but you do have to give those drivers behind you a heads up because you are getting on the brakes actively on the racing surface. Brandon Barrier also going to come to the pit lane. I mean, I don't dislike this call from these cars, right? The risk is they go a lap down. And of course, if a caution comes out anywhere during this cycle, it's going to hurt them because it's going to trap them a lap down. Maybe you don't make this move, Justin, if we're talking about league racing, right? And a 12th place finish for Cody Harris does him good in points. That doesn't mean anything here tonight. If you're not a top 5 car, you're not walking away in the money. And that allows those drivers at the tail end of the top 10 in those low teens positions to go for a call that they may not otherwise go for if the circumstances were different.
Yeah, in a couple of these cases, I think it's drivers just trying to pit when they're most comfortable, right? In terms of how they approach these types of races, don't break the pattern. In a lot of their cases, it's why not try something different, bank on a caution flag, you get track position, join the conversation later in the race because of the said caution flag, and then the whole equation changes. Still, you never know what's going to happen in these sort of runs. We're already halfway just about through this race after 11, and so far we've kept it clean and green this entire time.
Clean and green thus far, and soon to be in the midst of a chaotic green flag pit cycle. Raul Alves, Hayden Swank, more cars down pit road. Alex Jones is in as well, but it has been a trickle of cars down to pit road and not an open faucet. When do they all come in? Is that Castro? It is. Top 10 car, Andre Castro in from P6. It's going to be right on the money at 50 laps down and 50 laps to go. And now you would suspect once he's in, instantly going to go on better tires and is instantly going to get a pickup of about 1.5 seconds. That's the fall off we've seen out of these drivers. I would expect drivers to respond from up front. Nothing from Zach Novak at the moment. Looks like Kwame Scott, though, is coming down pit road. That car was in P2.
An interesting call for some of these drivers to go just at the halfway, keep it simple. Normally, we've seen people push an extra 5 to 10 laps in the window and then plan the strategy out. Kwame almost trying to put Zach on the back foot to try and force him down to the pit road and try and go for an undercut, at least try and trim down the gap. And this does indeed look like it's going to force a lot of these leaders down this time by.
Leaders, including the leader himself. Zach Novak is in from the #1 position, and that means that the 54 of Sean Conklin will stay out. He will get his first lap lead of the day as he assumes the race lead. Eberhardt, Thurber following the Novak machine down pit road. And once we get a decent number of these cars on the pit lane, then we'll start to search for our net leader. Right now it's Cody Harris in P26. Net leader meaning the highest running car on the racetrack who has pitted. Conklin takes his 1 lap lead. He smokes the tires a touch, but he's also down pit road. Looks like for the most part, everybody has avoided costly mistakes. Justin, I'm seeing mostly clean pit stops.
Yeah, there's actually, at least to me, there's been a trend of less speed penalties because people have become more accustomed to where you can get aggressive when it comes to the commitment cone and just getting on the brakes. Early on with this car, a lot of people would spin out. If you don't have that experience too, there's a lot of chance for wheel hop to spin it into pit road. I think this is just straight up down to the experience really settling on in for a lot of these drivers to know where they can push once they get to the yellow cone.
So Malik Ray going to enjoy some time up front. Henniger, Ritchie down pit road. But I thought we would kind of flip a switch when we got to 50 and we'd see 10, 20 cars coming in a lap or two. It has not been the case. They've all slowly but surely been coming in. Has gone off Wets, Johnson in this time, but still about a dozen cars yet to come to pit road. Now, Malik Ray's losing time by staying out. Jacob Samantha losing time by staying out. But when they get on pit road and to get their tires, they're going to have better tires for the rest of the race. They're going to have the upper hand. They're going to have to flip that switch and go on the offensive. And that's going to be an exciting battle to watch. As look out there. That's Donnie Fair on the inside. Lapped car, but with better tires than your leader. Trying to delicately get around the 7 car, but kind of awkwardly stuck to the inside of him.
A little bit of scary moment for a quick second, in fact, with that. At this point, just let the lap car go. That's all you can really do. Stay predictable. Be predictable when it comes to fresher tires, after all. But I think Malik, we know him to be a risk taker and know him to be one of the drivers that likes to be aggressive. He's putting himself in a situation where he's going to be one of the fastest cars on the racetrack and the most aggressive drivers of the racetrack when he ducks down to pit lane and finishes off the strategy here. And I could see it working from someone like Ray. We've seen just running on equal footing tires just didn't work by the end of the run previous. He's coming in this time. He just indicated on the radio.
So look for Malik Gray in this time. Kirsanov and Smetana pitted last time, and Malik Gray, as he yields on the inside, will get unlapped by Zach Novak, who has assumed the position of the net race leader. Ray is in, Schneider is in, Briar LaPrade will stay out. The 88 car will lead his first lap of the day. Only waiting on LaPrade, Maines, Kane, Heights, and Rittenauer to come down pit road. All of these cars have something in common. Most of them qualified high 20s, low 30s. We may have hit the point in this pit cycle as 3 wide is Cody Harris out there on the fresh tires, JP, where some of the cars now out front may try to go as long as physically possible on fuel to try to catch a yellow flag. LaPrade waves the white flag. He is coming down pit road from the race lead. That'll give Michael Sturgill an opportunity to take the top spot.
And at this point, for drivers especially like Maines, who's been towards the back much of the way, whether that be traffic, whether it be issues, you have to try something different at this point, because just going into the pit road and just following the normal strategy isn't going to win the race. If you bank on a caution, most of the field at this point, Evan, would come down to the pit road and take fresh tires. And that's kind of the thought process here is, will somebody make a mistake here? This doesn't seem like it's been a race tonight that's been trending towards cautions or anything in that regard, though, with how much things have now spaced apart with the strategy.
Yeah, I continue to be super impressed with the pace of this race. And that man right there, Cody Harris, was the very first car, I think, to come down pit road. And for a while, he was the net leader. He cycled out onto the racetrack, and then when the likes of Novak and Kwame Scott pitted, Cody was actually ahead of them on the racetrack. But again, those cars then pitted, had better tires than him, and have since passed him back. So if everybody were to pit now, Cody Harris would cycle through to about P4. That's still a gain over where he was running, but I think without the assistance of another yellow and maybe a restart, Cody Harris is not in race win contention, but could flirt with the points paying position. Remember, it's $4,000 to the race winner, $500 to second, $200 to third, $150 to fourth, and $100 for fifth. That's all that matters. Do you make a move that puts you in a top 5 spot? Remember, it shows P7 right now, but we're still waiting on 3 cars to pit. That's why he would cycle through to the number 4 spot. And again, I think Sturgill, Maines, and Kane, they're just going to kind of ride this out as long as they physically can.
Yeah, you can only go about, I'd say, 67-ish, give or take, on the gas. So eventually expect him to duck down. This is not a pretty squeeze, though. Garrett Maines saying, you know what? Let's take the race lead on the racetrack. This is uber aggressive for drivers trying to stretch out the strategy here.
There is no camaraderie between these 2 cars who are on the same pit strategy. G. Maines inside line to the race lead. First time that the number 2 has been out in front in this race. And if he stays out this time by, would get his first lap led of the afternoon. Sturgill drops to second. The other thing is the pace of the top cars in this field, Justin, is so high that even if you could make those 3 cars as Sturgill pits this time, even if they could go to the end on the fuel, they wouldn't be fast enough to hold these guys off anyways. Zach Novak has already passed a handful of drivers. He's now up to the number 2 spot, and he's only a second behind Garrett Maines. So even with a whole pit stop removed, that's the impressive pace that we've seen out of the likes of Zach Novak and others. And maybe we'll see the 1 car fold this time. He will slow off of the corner. Garrett Maines is down pit road, and now everybody has come to pit lane for service, and Zach Novak has cycled back through to the race lead with 35 laps to go.
And for Novak, 1 lap pressure tires compared to Kwame Scott. Scott's been having a hard time getting through some of this traffic, mind you. Novak's in a very good spot, at least, with how things are looking out right now. Has the flexibility to defend, has the flexibility to push a little bit. It's going to be a touch bit faster towards that equalization point. Now it's the question, can Kwame do anything to close up the margin just on raw pace? That's easier said than done for Kwame. He's right now trying to watch as one of the lap cars in Ricci is trying to find a way around him at the moment, the race leader.
It's a pretty important spot if you're Julian Ricci, because if you can unlap yourself here, he's the first car a lap down, you would not have to rely on a lucky dog to get back to the race leading lap and could be in contention to fight for more positions as this race goes on. Zach Novak's on 15-lap older tires. Ricci's got better tires. He pitted after Zach Novak did. So again, it's kind of a fine line, and I'm faster than you. I'm trying to pass you, but I'm also not trying to stick it side by side and slow you down, because that would certainly hurt Novak with only being 0.4 of a second up on Kwame Scott. More battles inside of the top 5 spots. That's Cody Harris getting passed by Daniel Eberhardt for 4th and 5th. A lot of smoke at a stopped car. It's Brandon Barrier on the front stretch, and there it is. Caution flag number 1 of the afternoon as Brandon Barrier is facing the wrong way just under the flag stand.
Well, just like that, this changed up the script, doesn't it, for drivers like Cody Harris, just outside the top 5 with the time of the caution flag. Absolutely huge, and now it becomes a short run style race yet again, where we've seen how aggressive they were once they got 15-20 laps on the rubber. You're going to probably see that the rest of the way here, and this is where it came in, just got loose, collected another car, hard contact. And then it brings up the caution flag. One did tow the 53 machine. Brandon Barrier picking up the hard contact on Aaron Raman, I believe it is. Ramon should say, in terms of the front straightaway.
And now many of these leaders have been out there. In the case of Cody Harris, 25 laps on the shorter end of things. Jacob Schneider back in 13th, only 11 laps. Suspecting that pit road could be a busy place, despite the fact that we literally just completed that green flag pit cycle. And I know the likes of Maines and others are thinking, man, that couldn't have happened 3 laps earlier, because their strategy would have paid out well. Let's see, is it going to be wholesale decision time on pit road? It is a majority of the field. All the race leaders inside of the top 10 come trickling down pit road. Couple of cars that I've seen stay out, lapped cars only so far, so it looks like they're all coming in. Who wants 4? Who wants 2?
Had to come in to get the 4 tires at the very least. Already some of these drivers do 15-20 laps into their pit windows and fuel runs so far. Curious if anybody rolls the dice for track position. We do have one. We have a roll of the dice from Sean Conklin. He just took 2 tires. Everybody else taking 4.
The 2 tires for Conklin means that he is off pit road in first position. The second car off of pit road, Cody Harris, also goes for 2. And then it is a slew of 4 tires for the heavy hitters: Novak, Scott, Castro, Eberhardt, and Busa. First 5 cars off on 4 fresh tires. There are some other 2-tire takers sprinkled throughout the field. Schneider in P9. LaPrat in P16. They're trying to get some track position here and there, but the headliners will be what can Sean Conklin and Cody Harris do, because these are not back marker cars, Justin. These 2 guys have been competitive all night long, and now we'll see, do they have a fighting chance with about 30 laps to go in this race to make the 2 tires work?
That's a good question, because you're talking about, for those drivers, 10, 15 lap difference between the left side to the right sides, give or take here. It's going to be where, in the long term, I don't think they hold on long term if it goes green the rest of the way. If we get enough caution flags, it becomes a smart move, especially if you're able to keep the track position. But I fully expect that it's going to be difficult for them to hold on to the front here, because we've seen for the first 20 laps. It was hard to solidify the lead completely in this type of a race so far tonight. You had to make the call if you wanted the track position, but it's just a matter of can you make the track position stand up.
And we've seen calls like this made successfully and calls like this made unsuccessfully in all ranks of the service. But again, I think it goes back to the point I had made when Cody Harris made that very early pit stop is why not, right? Only the drivers inside of the top 5 walking away with some money here tonight. So there is no incentive for a driver to protect a P10, protect a P15. That's great. But again, if you're showing up to an ERA Omega Cup race, you're not much for moral victories. You're here to compete against the very best on the iRacing service and walk away in the money. And that's exactly what Sean Conklin, who started 5th, and what Cody Harris, who started 12th, intend to do, because they're going to make up the front row in this one. And then again, for Zach Novak, ending up 3rd could be a big storyline if those 4 tires bite like we expect them to do. And to give them a big upper hand is he's going to be lined up behind the control car. That should give him a big upper hand over a Kwame Scott, who may struggle to restart behind Harris, who is likely going to be at a disadvantage here. I think this could open things up for Andre Castro, 3rd car in line on 4 tires. He's been good all night, but hasn't been able to get just into the top 2, the top 3 quite yet. This could give this 34 also a really good look at this checkered flag.
I think there's a good opportunity, absolutely, too, for Castro, because at least to me, he's got top 5 pace tonight. I'm not surprised. He's got NASCAR Xfinity Series experience after all. It's just going to be, is it that going to become the case? Because you got Matt Bussa, who's going to want positions back. You got Malik Ray, who we know is not afraid to send it 3 wide if it comes down to it. You also have some of the errors that were great on short run, like Mozganov, that are going to be starting back at about 10. It's going to be a bonanza of a restart, I think, in these next couple laps here. Once they really build some tire temp down, it's going to be a crazy restart.
And if you're joining us live, curious who you think is going to walk away with the win, toss your prediction into Twitch chat, into YouTube chat, and let's see who ends up walking away $4,000 richer. We're set for a restart with 27 laps to go in the Omega Cup Fall Bowl at Texas. 2-tire Conklin in control. Green flag back in the air. It's a great restart for the 54 car. He'll lead to turn 1. Novak to the inside. He's there in Harris for P2.
What did I say about Ray in 3 wide? Already 3 wide on Castro to the inside. Just like that, he's in the top 5. There's that aggression we've seen Ray be able to really harness in the past couple of years. But they're more focused on trying to get around Harris than they are trying to get to Conklin at the moment, with how much weeble wobbling we're having from Harris.
Through for 2nd. Novak finally able to get around Cody Harris. He sits in 3rd, still defending to be done, as Kwame Scott and Malik Ray going to be just as aggressive. Malik tried to get to the inside of the 28, couldn't do it that time. And Malik Ray and Kwame Scott going to slow each other down just a touch as they're side by side for 4th off the corner. Eugene Vizganov, P9. Some work to do for one of the drivers who's led 8 laps in this race tonight. What can he do from the number 9 spot? Can he activate those 4 fresh tires? They're 3 wide just in front of him.
It's going to be difficult with how much of a hornet's nest it is, but a caution flag.
Trouble towards the rear. It may have been Aaron Ramon in the number 36 car. It was trouble back in the 30s. We'll slow things down once more, and I cannot say that I am surprised you saw the big moves that some of the cars up front were making, and it looks like that it was more than just the leaders who were making those big moves, as there was a couple of cars wadded up on the back straightaway. I think Brandon DeBarrier got a piece of that one. He was involved in the accident prior. We'll wait to see a second look, but at least 3-4 cars going to get some damage in an incident that happened off of turn number 2 and down the back straightaway.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised that we at least seen the yellow flag come out with the expected aggression, and there was, from what I can tell, is to my side, it was extremely aggressive towards the back of the field. 17 dives underneath to the bottom, makes some contact, slides up 36. And around they go down the back straightaway. At least 4 or 5 cars collected Jake Ballmain picked up a heavy bit of contact in the 83. It was calamity at the back.
And a couple of big hits with some of those cars coming in a little bit later. That is what made that one a big mess. And there's the 53 sideways, and then boom, big shot there as that 36 came across the racetrack. And it looked like Rahman in the 36 car had to take that toe to pit road and is likely going to burn a fast repair. There's the touch that he got. It was contact with Matt Johnson.
Some heavy licks in this grouping, but at this point, that's what happens towards the end of these races. Cautions breed cautions, and that was kind of the fear going through my mind once we got the caution flag flying. I was expecting towards the front, but now, how are they going to respond? We already seen everybody make it clear they wanted to push the aggression to get around Harrison quickly. Conklin could be a different story with how much poise he seemed to have shown, at least in this car tonight, where he's kept the top 10 this whole evening.
And here's another thing too that is always kind of tricky to define when you get a driver on old tires trying to make things work up front, is the fact that, was that yellow good or bad for Conklin, right? I think ideally when he makes that decision to go for 2 tires, your instant thought is, well, the more cautions, the better, right? It's going to give less laps of green flag racing for the cars on 4 tires to be able to catch him. Sometimes, though, like he had a really good jump there, it's not ideal because it closes the cars in. I think in that case, it was probably good for Sean because he got a big jump, and Zach had about a lap and a half to close in and was within a car length. So if the 54 can ideally get another big jump, lead for a couple of laps, get another yellow, I think that's going to be the most realistic path forward, because it feels like if you give Novak, and again, not to discredit the likes of Scott and Eberhardt, the other cars on 4 tires, they're just not clear of Harris yet, which is going to be their biggest detriment. But you give Zach Novak 3-4 laps at you, and I think he's going to be able to make those 4 tires, get the better of you.
I could see that too. And the restart takes away the buffer, absolutely. And so it's going to be how well does Novak handle the restart. For the outside, remember Conklin going to be the control car here. But also, I'm very intrigued on how people are going to play the lines to get around from the second row, open up opportunities to get to that front. And Novak has made it clear he's been the best driver long run on equal equipment. It's not going to be easy to find your way back to Novak if it takes a long time to get yourself up to, say, the 3rd spot and around Harris or anyone else at this point who's going to be busy battling once we get to this restart.
Light's still on the pace car, and now they're off. So, no, light's still on, actually, for the moment. So at least one more lap before these drivers get back underway. Saw the 2x2, thought we were going to go again. It may seem like splitting hairs, but for Sean Conklin, every lap here or there could make a big difference, and those lights should go out this time by. When they do, it means that we'll have 20 laps to go. When we come back around to take the green flag, it still feels like that's going to be a tall order for Sean to be able to make work on the 2 tires. Again, there was only 4 or 5 drivers that made that decision, and the majority of the fastest cars from the night, Novak, the highlight of them all, is on 4 tires and is going to be right there alongside him. But again, outside line tends to have a bit of a deficit when it comes to timing these restarts. That pace car is going to go in, and that 54 has from the start of the restart zone to the exit of the restart zone to actually restart this race. He got a really good jump last time. I think step one for Sean here, not to think too far ahead, Justin, is to just simply get the good restart and then worry about, what that battle looks like by the time they get to 1. But none of it is remotely relevant if he doesn't clear that 5 car right away.
And of course, don't spin the tires. Absolutely don't spin out the tires at this point and check up the field. Just get a smooth restart. It's all you can hope for. Get clear. It makes it a bit easier to be able to defend compared to keeping it side by side. And then see how the cards may fly here. If Novak keeps it side by side for 1 and 2, who knows what's about to happen, and if that happens.
Could this be the final restart of the night? It's going to come with 20 laps to go at the Great American Speedway. Conklin on 2 tires, Novak on 4, and the 54 is the control car. Green flag in the air, it's another good jump, but there won't be a challenge for P2. Harris did not launch, 3 wide, couple of rows back from the leader. Conklin trying to milk what is right now a 4-car length advantage, and now Novak's got some company in the form of Kwame Scott.
Exactly what Conklin wants to see. Try and see side-by-side racing for a fair bit. Build himself up a buffer. But remember, that second line's been so good off corner exit tonight in 3 and 4. Novak, good power, good movement, good precision to be able to clear.
Novak gets clear. Harris still on 2 tires. He now falls back to P6 with Daniel Eberhardt trying to clear him on the outside. That would put Harris out of the top 5 positions, which pay money in this race. He'll stay P5 for the moment now as Daniel Eberhardt is 3 wide with Andre Castro and Matt Busa. Those drivers want to get into the battle for the race lead, but again, they're too busy right now fighting against each other. Conklin at the stripe, 29.736 was his lap time. Zach Novak 1/10 of a second faster in P2. Clean air, but a spinner. There goes to the outside. Was it Daniel Eberhardt? It is just 1 car. Now it spins again. There's another caution.
And had to bring the caution out. He started slipping and sliding down the track in that aggressive battle for a spot. And my goodness, once again, the aggression levels just becoming high. What did I mention about the land rush to the bottom? This point, land rush to the bottom. There was actually contact behind on top of that pushed Jacob Snyder to the bottom. That was Briar LaPrade making contact with Snyder that caused that chain reaction event.
And it involved some of the heavy hitters who I had just mentioned moments prior. We're hoping to get up in the battle for the race win, but we're too busy fighting against each other to be able to make that step forward. And that is unfortunately, again, just desperation. Drivers giving it everything they can and maybe expected. We talked earlier about we saw a clinic for the first, 30 laps of this race. So much consecutive side-by-side racing, 3 wide racing. Doesn't matter the talent level of the guys you got in the field. You put a restart with drivers on different tires inside of 25 to go, and you're going to get some messy stuff. And that first yellow involved cars way back in the 20s and 30s, but that most recent one takes out a lot of your heavy hitters. And again, I have to ask, is that good for Conklin? I think it is, because he had used up, I think, maximized the buffer of his good restart. Novak cleared Scott. We're starting to chip into the lead. Then the yellow comes out. I think that's twice in a row for Sean Conklin where that yellow was timed out exactly how he would have wanted it drawn up.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, absolutely, because obviously, cautious, precautious, the more that hits, the more it puts the race in his hands because of how he's handled the restarts. And having that control car just gives you that much speed to be able to run away from the rest of the pack each start. If they keep fighting like the way they are each and every restart for second, third, fourth, fifth, it's going to go exactly what Conklin needs it to do for that buffer to maintain itself. You get a caution or two, it might be near difficult to be able to try and get to the 54 unless you time it up perfectly on a restart to take away that advantage.
Also browsing through the field to see, again, I don't think there's enough time for everybody deeper in the pack to make a call and try to get tires laid, and I think everybody pretty much in agreement with that. Nobody's coming down pit road. If you're a buffer driver, a Busa, a LaPrade, a Wetz, a Mazganov, again, don't forget LaPrade's on the 2 tires and has been doing a good job of hanging in there. Harris is still P5. I mean, anybody in that top 10 still has a chance to get in the money, if you ask me, because you get another incident like that involves 2-3 cars from the top 5 or so, and you're going to have the opportunity for drivers to make up spots. One other thing we should note that we didn't mention off at the top is this race, Justin, not utilizing the iRacing automated race control system, right? iRacing will still automatically issue penalties, black flags for rule infractions, but the cautions up to the live tower. So they're trying to give these drivers an opportunity, if it is a single car spin or something that is clear of the rest of the field and not a threat to other drivers, to continue green flag racing. So that is one thing to note with some of these yellows, is if iRacing threw the yellow right away, you might maybe fault some drivers slightly more on, you know, how fast they drive through an accident. But again, live race control only when it comes to throwing the yellow flags in this one, is why you're seeing maybe a bit of hesitation on those yellows, trying everything they can to let this race stay green.
Yeah, and you don't want a caution going out. I can see if someone's just 45 degrees around and saves it. That's where the argument comes in, where have the race control discretion in case that car does save it. In a lot of these cases, it's been where we've been getting these cautions, multiple car incidents starting to collide with one another, starting to build up. You don't want it to where it becomes people trying to floor it to be able to avoid incidents. But at this point, you're coming up to the closing stages. I will say here, Evan, you need to make the smart moves. You need to make the right moves if you want a chance. You're not going to have a chance if you get involved in an incident, put yourself in the 20s, compared to those who have just kept it clean all night in the top 10.
And if you're just joining us and maybe haven't been with us in the past for other races in this eRacing Association Omega Cup, we've been doing this since the inaugural Winter Bowl back in December of 2020. 4 big races a year. We've been to big tracks, little tracks, and everything in between. And in this first trip to Texas Motor Speedway, another $5,000 on the line tonight. Literally tens of thousands of dollars in prize money has been given out over the course of this series history, making it one of the most prestigious in the private league type and tournament style racing on the iRacing service. And that is why you see the big names from some of iRacing's top levels competing, is because everybody knows what it means to win an ERA Omega Cup race and how good it feels to cash the check if you're in victory lane at the end of the night. Let's do it again. 13 laps to go. Conklin trying to nail another restart. He's the control car on the inside of the front row. Next to Zach Novak. Into the restart zone. Green flag in the air. It's a healthy jump for the 54. Scott to the inside of Novak. That battle for P2 is big. Conklin needs them to stay side by side.
How long they stay side by side, though, is going to be a big question. Scott had a bit of a better restart to be able to build up the run, but remember, Novak's prime position, exit 3 and 4 to get himself clear and then chip away at the gap. Looks like this time, Scott, a lot better of a run to keep it alongside of the numbers.
Scott looked really good on the inside of turn number 1 last time. Can he pull alongside? They are leaning on each other's doors. Scott washes up a little bit. Novak topside, clear for P2. And now Malik Ray to the inside of Kwame Scott. That battle gonna be for 3rd. It looks like Malik Ray is clear of Kwame in the center of 3 and 4. And now the 4 tires are lined up in P2, 3 and 4. Can Novak, can Ray, and can Scott catch him? No, they can't. Another spinner behind. This time, it is Kyle Vallejos who is around, and another late race yellow is going to push us into the final 10.
Cautions continue to breed cautions at the tail. And again, giving each other space. Avoiding significant pinching, especially when you're in the 20s, also critical. Vallejos does have a tech issue in the middle of the spin, mind you, but he still got pinched down heavily by Trent Cusack in the 8 car, and that's what really turned him across the racetrack in that moment. A lot more pinching than we're used to seeing with drivers today at the most a quarter of the car over the seam. In that case, the 8 was more than halfway across that seam pinching.
Wasn't, you know, the 8 just took a lower lawn. I mean, you saw they entered the corner with more space, and then again, Trent, desperate, trying to get every little bit that he can, moved down closer to the 35 in the center of the corner. And I think that bit of a connection blip for the 35 happened before, I should say after the contact, right? I think that 35 was going around irregardless of that. Maybe the connection blip there made the damage a little bit worse than it could have been on Trent Cusack, because that thing took a wallop of a hit, and then he got cleaned out by Jake Balmain, who came through in the Bucky's machine. Got a bit of damage on that one as well. So 3 cars get a good bit of damage in that one. Again, they have the opportunity, if they haven't used it in a caution flag earlier in this race, to come down pit road, use that one available quick fix. We kind of talked about how some drivers will strategically maybe save that for late in the race if they get early damage. But because this race went green for the opening, basically 2/3 distance, anybody involved in these later race accidents are using that quick repair, no ifs, ands, or buts. A couple of drivers have dropped out of this race, haven't really done a check-in from the garage. We've seen Cole Larson, Cameron King, Aaron Ramon, and Brandon Barrier out of this race. We talked about the incidents that Barrier and Ramon were involved in, but King and Larson were out of this race sometime in the opening 10 laps. So unfortunately for them, their race was cut short quite prematurely. And there's about 6 other drivers 1 lap down. 30 cars still scored on the lead lap in this one. And I was a bit of a pessimist, admittedly, when I saw the 2-tire call for Sean Conklin, but you always ask the question of why not. And Justin, as we get inside of what may be 7 or 6 laps to go for the next restart, again, I think that the timing of these yellows has been completely optimal for what the 54 was hoping for, and I think he's got a real look at this race win.
I think so too. I think if it ends up going green from this point, it's going to be down to 1 or 2 chances, if best, with how much time is left. Conklin might have outgamed everybody else with how he's been able to handle this. Now, it's going to be important to keep getting good restarts in these closing stages. That's going to be the biggest part of this, is getting himself situated up front, get himself a few car lengths buffer, then see the side-by-side build up all the way to 3 and 4. That builds up an extra car length or 2, and then try and see what happens from there. I will say, over the radio, I did hear Malik Ray say, let's work single file, stay in line, work together to close the gap. We might see that pop up again here, because that might be the best shot everyone has here behind Conklin to zip by said 54 car in the final stages instead of just cost each other time.
It is undoubtedly the right decision to do, right? Once Novak, Ray, Castro, and others were able to get around the other car of Harris on 2 tires and get to the bumper of Conklin, the only thing that has been holding them back has been each other. But have race car drivers in the heat of the moment ever done the air quotes logical decision and worked together? Not likely, right? So I'm a little bit skeptical. Malik's absolutely right. I think that's a great decision, but nobody wants to, you know, be the second guy to take a crack at the $4,000 top spot. They all want to be the first person to get to Sean, and I think that in part is going to make it maybe unlikely that they work together, but I've been wrong before. Curious to see how this one will play out. And if you're joining us and want to get involved in the next time this ERA Omega Cup is on track, you could absolutely do so. Go to eragaming.gg for more information. That's where you could find the place to sign up for the Omega Cup here on the iRacing service, but they do far more than just that. They host a Fiesta Cup event for participants of maybe a slightly younger age on the Mario Kart platform. They've been doing some other things on some other arcade racing titles as well. So if you want to compete in this Omega Cup or explore what else is happening in the world of the eRacing Association, all of that can be found at eragaming.gg. It'll be 6 laps to go this time by. Worth noting, if we get to the white flag in this race is official no matter what happens. If we get another yellow, I think we're likely talking about maybe pushing this race to overtime, and we'll talk about those scenarios and how that may play out when we get to that point. To reset your running order, front row, inside is Conklin on the 2 tires. To the outside is Novak on 4. Row number 2, Malik Ray to the inside, Andre Castro to the outside. They both have 4 tires as well. The field fires on the mark of the number 54 car with 6 laps to go. Green flag in the air. Good jump, and here comes Malik Ray looking to the inside. He's got a big run for P2.
But again, the squeeze is on from the outside. Novak just has gotten that right every time. Force the driver to lift below, then get the run for the straightaway to be able to get clear. You're by exit of 4 or right now.
That's the quickest that Novak's gotten clear of a challenger since we've done this song and dance after that first yellow in the race. Malik Ray clear for 2nd. LaPrade clear for 4th. Cody Harris trying to get back into the money, but on the 2 tires struggling from P7. There is another caution flag. It is Daniel Eberhardt, who was one of the drivers who was flirting with a top running spot, had a lot of speed earlier on in this race, and unfortunately, I think was caught in a 3 wide gone wrong, and this may indeed push us to the end of scheduled distance. We'll have to watch and look. There it is, Justin, and he's on the outside line of this, or he's on the inside, I should say. They all come together, and he was the odd man out who got turned. It looked like the 13 spun further down the road. That was Yakov Kursanov.
Yeah, just no one wanted to give up. What else can you say? It's 3 wide towards the end of the race. In that case, they all just push each other up the racetrack, especially Eberhardt into Swank, into Sturgill, to cause all that calamity. At least 10 cars, believe, picked up some sort of contact from that, though. And again, this is exactly what Conklin wanted to see. He wanted to see cautions, precautions, and this is exactly the scenario he needed. It's going to be near impossible for a lot of these drivers to catch up with just 2 laps to do something here.
And I mentioned that that was the quickest that Zach Novak had gotten clear for P2 since we've done these handful of restarts, and it was subsequently the quickest that the caution flag came out. Again, things have timed out very well for Sean Conklin. And even if this thing can somehow start in regulation, which it doesn't look like it's possible with the light staying on top of the pace car off the turn number 1, this thing is going to go to overtime. So you're talking a maximum of 2 laps. Conklin's got a real shot of holding off Zach Novak for 2 laps, even with the tire disadvantage, and even if you lined him up single file and there was no challenge for P2. This thing is looking very doable if you're in the camp at the number 54 Toyota of Sean Conklin. Let's talk ERA overtime, Justin. There are 3 attempts maximum at finishing this race under green flag conditions.
And if we take the white flag, the race goes straight up to the checker flag. If we get a caution flag for the white flag, it ends up sending up another green-white checkered attempt. In our words, it's quite simple. Just get to the white flag, right? And for Conklin, he's in the driver's seat, literally and figuratively, on how this race can play out for him. Just needs good restarts, needs to be able to keep the tires underneath, don't slide up, don't make any mistakes. And he's in a great spot to try and win this race. For everybody else, it's the matter of, do they behave long enough for us to get to the white flag? That's going to be a big question, with it being caution precaution for the past 20 or so laps.
Lights on top of the pace car stay on. Again, that is simply semantics at this point. We already know we're going to be headed to overtime, so all this does is, what was that last lap? Look, about 1 minute and 35 seconds to do a lap under caution, so that just means it's an extra 1 minute and 35 seconds for Sean Conklin to think about all the what-ifs on how this can go wrong, and an extra 1 minute and 35 seconds for Zach Novak and P2 to brainstorm on what he can do differently that he has yet to be able to figure out. Now, when Conklin did that very first restart just outside of, 25 laps to go or whatever, he got a mammoth restart. I mean, he was 7-8 car lengths clear. He has not had restarts to that effect yet, and since then, but even the 3-car length, 4-car length gap that he's been getting, coupled with the fact that Malik Ray has been up and on the wheel and antsy to follow him through, that has been enough. So if you're Novak, aside from just blindly guessing and trying to fire off at the same time as that 54, I don't know what he can do here, Justin, that he hasn't already tried.
And he can't just blindly guess it either, because the instant system works where in the restart zones, if you accelerate before the leader, you get a black flag. You can't accelerate before the leader. It's going to be, how good is your spotter? How much can your spotter help you? Scott R. Taylor's on the spotter stand tonight for Novak. How much can he help you time it up just right? And even then, when you hear that going for the motor, by that point, you're talking about enough of a distance to get a car length ahead, just about, with what we've seen so far. It's not easy to time it up right unless you take a lucky guess, but also have it to where you don't jump before the leader. You end up reading the mind of the leader almost.
Sean Conklin is in search of his first win in the ERA Omega Cup. So is Zach Novak. Malik Ray looking for a little bit of different history. Try to become only the second driver in series history to win back-to-back feature races. Brian LaPrade, he's been here. He's done that. He won the FallBowl last year when we did it on the short track in Martinsville, Virginia. So you got a pair of no-time winners on the front row looking to make history. And you got a pair of previous race winners on row number 2 looking to add to the history in their own right. It'll be attempt number 1 of 3 at ERA Overtime. You get to the white flag. This race is official. A caution before that point means we stop and line them up again. Here we go. Conklin has to wait for the blue restart zone, pitted on the inside of the racetrack. We go on his decision. Green flag in the air. It's a good jump again. He's clear. Half a car length only, though. But Malik Ray to the inside of Novak. Will that hold up the 5-car?
Nearly got the timing right. Novak seems to try and get the pinch down. This is exactly, again, the start Conklin needed to be able to pull away. They're getting uber aggressive for second.
Big touch, Malik Ray. Now he tries to block to the inside. 3 wide behind them with Casto to the inside of the racetrack. But can Conklin reach the white flag to make this race official? Zach Novak is hunting him. It's 3 car lengths.
It's going to be difficult right now. He needs perfect runs here as they're busy battling for third. Novak may need to get the bumper out if he is willing to do that. Still too big of a bumper to do that, though, as they crash behind.
Crashing behind. Money paid out to the top 5 spots, but all eyes on P1. Novak tried to wind it up for the run on corner exit, but he wasn't able to do it. Sean Conklin, a first-time Omega Cup winner, makes the 2-tire call work for his first ERA win, as they wadded him up to the start-finish line behind him. What a gutsy call by Sean Conklin.
It was a bold call, but I'm not surprised someone like Conklin pulled it off. He's got the experience to be able to pull off races like this. Tonight, he just played the restarts perfectly each and every time, and with the race trending the way it did, it played perfectly into Conklin's hands.
And he celebrates on the front straightaway as the latest driver to join the prestigious list of race winners in the history of the eRacing Association Omega Cup. Sean Conklin is your 2024 FallBowl winner. And the highlight of all that is he is walking away tonight with a $4,000 prize. We'll get his reaction and more on the backside. Here's a second look at some of the other chaos as those leaders pulled away for the grand prize on the line. This was the battle, Justin, for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, which still had a couple $100 hanging in the balance.
Yeah, they were starting to get very physical. Castro having to block multiple lines. He did not want to give up 3rd. But at that point, Keep an eye right about here. You see some more bumping and banging, and then Harris gets swallowed up by the entire field of the backdrop. Castro made his car at least 5 lanes wide just to be able to hold off the pack.
Impressive stuff for Sean Conklin. We'll get his reaction and more in just a moment. First, let's take a look at your full race results. Conklin gets the win. He walks away with the $4,000 prize. It is a P2 finish for Zach Novak. He'll still be rewarded with a $500 check. Third place, Andre Castro. That was the highest we saw him all night. He'll get $200. Fourth place finisher Malik Ray gets $150. And the two-tire call worked not only for Conklin. Brian LaPrade worked his 2 tires to a P5 finish. He'll walk away with $100 as well. Schneider, Alvis, Wett, Scott, Fulton all in the top 10, but just miss out on the payouts.
11th spot going the way of Mozganov. Then you have Smentia in 12th position. Eagles in 13th in front of Jones. Thorper in 15th. Garrett Maines had a whirlwind of a race up and down the pylon. Finished in 16th. Chris Papa, after being a lap down at one point, in 17th. Hayden Swank finishes off in 18th. Then you have Konorovik and then Kirisanov in amongst the top 20.
All these cars still on the lead lap. A lot of them involved in an accident on the white flag lap in that race, as Matt Busa ends up in the number 21 position. Jake Balmain, 22nd. Kyle Vallejos, Ray Rittenauer, Cody Harris, 25th. Of course, it was Harris who was one of the drivers spearheading the two-tire decision. He was on the front row with Sean Conklin no more than 25 laps ago. His night ends very differently, way down the running order. Andrew Henniger, Christopher Heitz, they're the last cars to finish on the lead lap in 26th and 27th. And then Sturgill, Thayer, and Hobbs are your top 30.
Then some big time losses down the board. Matt Johnson finished in 31st. DeAndre Kane in 32nd. Sturgill finishes the DNF in 33rd with Daniel Eberhardt. Then Ricci, Cusack, Ramon, along with Barrier, Kane, and Cole Larson qualified for the race but didn't turn any laps in this one. Rounds out the entry list of 40 cars who made the field.
Let's look top to bottom at your full race results in this ERA Fall Bowl at the Texas Motor Speedway. And I think we've got some of our top finishers standing by to chat with us. Let's start with the top step of the podium and the man who's walking away with the big money at the end of the night, because Sean Conklin is a first-time winner in the eRacing Association Omega Cup. Sean, congratulations, but tell us about the call to go for the 2 tires and then the battle to make that last all the way to the end.
Oh my God, dude. I can't believe it. My heart has not slowed down since the backstretch on the last lap, dude. I can't. I'm going to be completely honest, and I have to give all the credit to my teammate, Jacob Schneider. He was in VC. It's the only reason I thought of 2 tires, is he said that he was going to do it, but he couldn't do it because of all the lap traffic. So then I was like, let's give that a shot. And I know it works at other tracks, and I've lost a lot of races by not taking 2 tires, and I had a feeling there was going to be some cautions and some carnage, and I knew I just needed to make a call to get the lead because it's going to be very hard to pass in the short run. And man, oh my God, the amount of excitement, I don't think I've ever felt this in forever. And I don't this is just amazing, man. I can't even put it into words. I can't. This is just absolutely amazing.
It really felt like the timing of those yellows was basically everything you could have asked for, right? You get your jump, the benefit of being in the control car. You build a bit of a gap. They start to chip away at it. The yellow comes out. Like, it felt like the timing was pretty optimal. Was that a best case scenario, the way that one ended?
Yes, absolutely. The cautions were definitely perfect. And I mean, the 2 tire strategy, had that gone green, definitely probably would not have worked. It was about a 10th off, 10th and a half per lap. When we went green for about 7 laps there, you can definitely see the difference. But I just took that gamble that all those cautions would play into favor, and they did. I am so happy they did, and we took that gamble, and golly, it worked.
Tell us what it was like to, obviously you win this event, so you're the one who walks away the happiest, but to qualify into an event like this, right? You got obviously a lot of your teammates with Ryko Performance, but qualifying in through the heat races, through knockout qualifying, what is it like for you to compete in an event like this that is different than kind of the average top level stuff on the sim?
Yeah, no, it's definitely different. It's very unique from anything else that's out there and that I've raced. And I'm gonna be honest, I found out that the heat races were going on like 5 minutes before they started. I had 20 seconds left to spare before the registration closed for the heat race, and wow, am I glad that I registered. Just amazing, man. This event is amazing, and we had a good result in Iowa, and I look forward to the next one, and take this great result and look forward to the next one from here. And just amazing. It's the only word that I can find right now. It's just amazing.
Well, you brought it up, not me, to not look too far forward, but we mentioned this a couple of times that we've seen a lot of big names win races in this series. Malik's done it, Matt's done it, Breyer, Vicente, Michael. I mean, you go on the list. Only one driver's ever won 2 ERA Omega Cup races back to back, and that was Chente back in 21. So is this a commitment that we'll see you back here again for the Winter Bowl to defend this crown?
I mean, yeah, absolutely, and definitely gonna put in some more practice. Just try not to hop in 5 minutes before and go at it. But yeah, definitely looking forward to the next one. I mean, I never thought I'd win one of these. I never thought I'd win any big event on here. Just at least for a few years. Just it's been a slump. It's been a pretty big slump. We've had some highs and a lot of lows recently, and this is one heck of a high, man. This is incredible.
You mentioned some of the teammates with you in the voice chat. Before we let you get out of here, who do you want to say hi to for this win?
I just want to say hi to my dad that is watching upstairs right now, who came down just as excited as ever. We started celebrating. I want to give a shout out to my friend, longtime friend I've always raced with, Preston DeMello. He's always been such a great friend to me. He's already blowing up my phone. And just want to thank all my teammates at Ryko, Jacob Schneider, Nicholas Ruman, just there's so many others. Roger Pierce. Dude, I'm leaving people out. Don't hate me. I'm sorry. I can't think of everybody right now. Just everybody. Ken. And I also have to apologize to Ken because I'm running a Carvana paint that I forgot to put the stupid Ryko paint on. And yeah, now I won the race with the Carvana paint and not the Ryko paint. So sorry about that, Ken. Yeah, just big thank you to everybody. Messy interview, but just so excited.
So we appreciate you being a part of this event. You know, these races wouldn't be exciting for us to cover, and they wouldn't kind of have the prestige that they do if we didn't get some of the top talent from around the Sims. We appreciate you being here, Sean. We appreciate your time. Congratulations on your win, and enjoy that $4,000 that's coming your way. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you. I will.
So race winner tonight at Texas Motor Speedway, a very happy Sean Conklin has broke through and is an ERA Omega Cup race winner. Zach Novak ends up P2 tonight. Justin, you're with tonight's runner-up.
Yes, indeed. Zach now joining us in the booth here. Zach, talk to us through this race where you had the long run speed, but it ends up being the 2 tires that get the upper hand in the end.
Yeah, you know, I'm really not much of a cocky person or anything, and I really take pride in trying to be, you know, relatively humble. But it's just, at the end of the day, I mean, it's just so frustrating. You know, really having 3 of these races won in the last year and no win to show for it. It's really, really frustrating. You know, pace-wise, we were, you know, out of the park tonight, and that's kind of been the case the last year or so in this series. But you know, gotta make the right calls to close it out, I guess. And unfortunately, you know, 20 laps on the tires doesn't really mean much there. So especially when we can't go green at all. So it's really, really, really frustrating. That's really all I got to say about it. It's just at the end of the day, there's nothing I could have done there any differently. And yeah, all I needed was some green flag laps that we never got.
Swaying more to the positive, though, there was some great battling, especially during the long green flag run. What was going through your mind through that, where you're going side by side, 3 wide, getting the outside line working all during that first half of the race?
Yeah, well, I'm getting used to a whole new setup, so I'm really still kind of just not 100% sold on where where I need to be for tire saving and what my inputs are like and everything. And I'm kind of getting there, slowly, but just not quite as comfortable as I need to be from that aspect. So the whole kind of first half of that first run, I was kind of just guessing a little bit and trying to trust my instincts and hope that I was making the right decisions. And obviously we were, because the long run pace was excellent. I thought Matt was going to come get us there at the end of that, but I never fell off. I really don't know how, but I just had a crazy amount of grip, and I was really happy with the car. Just again, not much I can do there at the end, unfortunately, and just $3,000 or however much down the drain. But again, what can you do?
So, an interesting note you mentioned on the setup, just out of curiosity, what's that new setup like, and how has that adjustment period now been? Of course, coming into a big race like this tonight with a brand new rig setup, it sounds like.
Yeah, so I've been on a desk setup for really my entire iRacing tenure. I've been on a desk my entire Coke Series tenure. And I decided I wanted to upgrade to a direct drive this winter, and the desk I had was not going to handle a direct drive, so I had to upgrade to a rig. So thanks to Garrett and SimSeats for hooking me up with that. And yeah, so I've got the whole 9, new pedals, new wheel, whatever else you can think of that's new. So at the end of the day, I feel like I didn't really lose much of a step. I was pretty comfortable tonight once I got in a rhythm, but like I said, I was kind of just guessing the first 20 laps on hoping that I was making the right decisions.
Anyone you want to give a shout out to here tonight?
Yeah, just big thank you to Scott Taylor, and as we call him, Taco, for helping out tonight and helping me with the fuel calculations a little bit there at that green flag stop. And thanks to everybody for putting this on. As frustrating as that ending was, at the end of the day, to get to race for $4,000 every few months is awesome. So thank you to Jesse and everybody on his project for putting this together and giving sim racers an opportunity like this. And just thank you to everybody that helps me behind the scenes, Lockdown Racing, McConey Setup Shop, and everybody that supported us all year through Coke. This one's gonna sting for a while, but again, it is what it is. We'll move.
Once again, congratulations on the second place run here tonight, Zach.
Thank you, buddy.
Zach Novak coming away second spot tonight. A familiar name in ERA competition. Andre Castro, he held off the pack, Evan, for third spot. Will he be standing by with you?
That's right, we're down trackside with tonight's third place finisher, Andre Castro. And Andre, first off, congratulations. I mean, a great result for you, but I can't help feeling like you wanted a little bit more for that ERA Chevy. I mean, you guys started up front, you had the speed all night, and it felt like maybe just needed a little bit more time on the end there to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely felt like Texas is one of my best tracks, and so definitely felt like I had the most speed here compared to any of the other tracks that we've done so far. And yeah, it's disappointing not to get it done, but yeah, congrats to Sean. Yeah, I feel like if things had gone differently, could have challenged for the win there. Definitely, obviously wish I had taken 2 tires now, because I was ahead of Sean when I came to the pits. But you know, I'm sure Zach is thinking the same thing. But yeah, as was another good race. I mean, that I was really pleasantly surprised by the long green flag run we had there. So I mean, kudos to everybody, all the other drivers, because we haven't even gotten close to green flag pit stops and the other races, and here we were able to get a whole round in, so that was really cool. The way the race played out, the tire strategy was good. Just we need to do a little better job on the restarts there at the end. Just hopefully next time it'll work out a little better for us there at the end. But P3 is definitely not bad. It's just such a big difference from the first place prize to the third. So, but you know, we do get some money anyway, and get to represent our eRacing Association and Jesse Wuji Motorsports. So it was a good night and my best finish so far. So we'll take it.
And tell us about that. Obviously, you've got the ERA colors on the car. We saw you drive with the NASCAR Xfinity Series with the ERA logo on that as well earlier this year. So what has it been like for you competing in these events and now making those starts on the real world as well? I know Jesse's big on the sim to reality aspect of this, and not only giving great opportunities to drivers here on the sim to compete for money, but also that exposure and those other opportunities, and we've seen you all over the place recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's been great to race in real life with Jesse and have ERA on the car. It's been a privilege, and hopefully we can do it some more next year. But on the sim side, it's always great to do these events with so many good drivers. It's definitely a bit intimidating, going up against these pro and coke guys. Obviously, Sean won. I feel like that's a win for us non-pro guys, but obviously he's still really talented and really fast. But it's always fun to do these races. Just frustrating when it doesn't really work out. But hopefully I'm just a competitor. Like I'm not just doing these races because I like just to feel like I have to be there because the ERA is doing it. I'm trying to win. So hopefully we can get it done at some point and get the big prize. But I think it's great what ERA is doing. So for the community, and obviously you see it with all these guys showing up, and it's been pretty successful so far. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
Well, you mentioned it's maybe intimidating to go up against some of those coke guys. You beat at least 4 of them tonight, so that that goes. With a little bit of street cred there as well, that, again, you were one of the most competitive cars in this one, still walk over the top 5 spot, and already looking forward to what we'll see out of that number 34 car when we do this again later this year for the Winter Bowl, Andre. But appreciate everything you do, and thanks for your time joining us, and congratulations again on the good result.
Yeah, thank you so much, Evan. Thank you to the whole RaceSpot team for putting this on, Satellite Productions, Jesse Wuji, ERA, Kevin Johnson. And I'll see you guys in the winter.
Looking forward to it. We'll be back in December, and that man going to be looking for a win in this Omega Cup. It's a great showing tonight for Andre Castro. Again, he ends up in 3rd. Malik Ray, Brian LaPrade also end up in the money spots. They're in 4th and 5th position, but the real story was the strength of Zach Novak, and you heard when you were talking with him, Justin, maybe a little bit of frustration, right? He feels like maybe he's been the car to beat in this series for the last couple starts. And was the car in position through a lot of the green flag runs, through the green flag pit stop. But tonight, the story is Sean Conklin and that pit strategy that nets him his first win.
Yeah, and Conklin executed it perfectly once again. He mentioned himself, he didn't think about it until a teammate mentioned it. And, well, the teammate did try to get himself just outside the top 5, outside the points, the money-paying positions. I think for Conklin tonight, it was all about him skill-wise too, to be able to execute on the restarts, and better yet, to be able to keep that distance, because we've seen the difference between him and some of the others who tried it, who got swallowed up in the pack. It was a well-done race tonight for Conklin, and I already know that team is very much deep into celebration with how things went tonight for them this evening.
This is the big thing for me is, right, I mean, you get a guy like Sean who's with the Ryco group. I mean, that's an organization here on the service that is top talent. They're used to winning when they show up. And the uniqueness of this event, right? You're not going to find many other big events out there on the service where you can walk away and win $4,000. Sean was kind of at a loss for words for it. That was the silver lining that Zach said when you were talking with him. I mean, man, it's just cool to be able to do this. And that all ties back in again with everything that Jesse Wuji's doing with his entire team here at the eRacing Association. Again, I was looking back at that list of previous race winners. We've been doing this since December of 2020. So fully into the 4th full year of running this, and year 5 not that far away. And you know, Andre Castro, P3 result. That's a good one. They're already looking forward to when we do it again with that Winter Bowl, which should be coming up probably later this year in December. Should be exciting to see. Again, it was the first time we've been to Texas. I found that hard to believe. I can only imagine where we'll take these cars next.
I can't imagine either, especially with the different combinations that we've seen over the years when it comes to the Omega Cup. I can't wait to see either. It should be a fun time once we get to the winter time. It's just a matter of seeing where we go and what adventures are taken once we go to that said place.
And we hope that if you're not on track the next time this series is up and running, that you're at least joining us on the broadcast. But again, we encourage you to be a part of this community and to be a part of the eRacing Association. And for more information on how you can register to be in the next race of this Omega Cup or the other various tournaments that the eRacing Association is hosting, you can find all of that information online. That's eragaming.gg, eragaming.gg for more information. Who knows? We might be talking to you in Victory Lane when we do this again in a couple of weeks' time. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight from Texas Motor Speedway. On behalf of our entire team at RaceSpotTV, everybody from iRacing, of course, Jesse and his entire group at the eRacing Association, and of course, for your broadcast team tonight. For our producer downstairs, Hugo Luis, for Justin Prince, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to say thanks for tuning in, and congratulations to Sean Conklin, who's a first-time ERA Omega Cup race winner. We'll be back later this year for the Winter Bowl in December, right here on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from the Lone Star State. Sim Racers, welcome to the eRacing Association, where you have the chance to win $5,000 in one of the best tournaments in all of sim racing. Green flag in the air.
Are you ready to reach the next level of sim racing? The eRacing Association's epic Omega Cup Series lets you win big. Racing with ERA lets you compete for huge cash prizes, get exclusive merch, exclusive sim hardware pricing, and potentially turn your virtual dreams into reality. Feel the rush as you race door to door against sim racers just like yourself, all from the comfort of your own home.
Straight away, they're an idiot. Oh, they're wrecking! They're wrecking!
Join now to get your membership and experience all of the excitement that the eRacing Association has to offer at www.eragaming.gg.
Celebration, he hangs on.